Welcome back to the channel. This video is discussing the future of Call of Duty Zombies, and what I think needs to happen in order to not only restore it to its former glory, but to surpass it at its peak. Now go ahead and settle in, fix yourself something to eat, and oh, that's right. Before we get started, I just wanted to say thank you. Really, thank you. The support on these videos has been amazing, blowing any expectation I could have had out of the water. The support and the subscribers have been unreal, and I hope to continue to deliver the best I can. And now with that out of the way, I present the future of COD Zombies. It is no secret that Call of Duty Zombies is in a really uncertain spot at its current point, and I feel that without some adjustments to the course, we may see this trajectory point to the potential end of the mode. This, however, is an entirely preventable outcome. But before we get into that, let's rewind the clock to the recent history of the mode and establish a little bit of a baseline before moving forward. I'll keep this brief as I've already discussed a great number of COD zombie games on the channel, and I will link those videos down below. Black Ops 4 was largely a brick wall to the community following the insane success of Black Ops 3 Zombies. I'm not saying that we hated everything here. There are a number of things that the community and I personally like. Ancient Evil is genuinely a really fun map, and 9 is the best map in terms of using the BO4 systems. But between BO4's decision to intertwine two storylines instead of properly finishing Ether and then starting Chaos, the perk system changes, and the pocket wonder weapons that the specialist weapons wound up being, it just didn't sit well with the community for the most part. Followed up by Cold War, which generated some largely speaking well-received gameplay, where players got to feel the most overpowered they have ever been in the mode. While there's still some missteps here, the gameplay of Cold War was really good. The thorn for me in Cold War was the maps themselves weren't that enjoyable for the most part. Following that mode up with Vanguard Zombies, which was a mode, that's for sure, where we regressed not only gameplay but also in map design. I won't go into depth into Vanguard here, as I feel it deserves its own video to talk about to really get into the nitty gritty of the mode. But with our bases covered for the history, let's look to the future of zombies. By the way, this is in no particular order. This is just a list of things that I think would benefit the game and the community as a whole, that in my opinion would spell success for zombies. Leaderboards. From the start of the game, leaderboards that are accurate and incentivized should be featured. This is a neat way of seeing where you stack up against your friends and those around the world, encouraging a sense of competition and an assessment of a player's skill based on different map performance records such as high round tallies and Easter egg completion times. There could even be seasonal leaderboards where if you are in the top, say, 50% of players for a particular map Easter egg for that split, you'll get a cool cosmetic item. I think this would encourage players to stay active with this side of the game a little more and reward them for being engaged, which is what every developer should want. Which kind of leads me to my next point. Community challenges. Speaking of competition, I think community challenges need to be somewhat regular feature of the mode. I often fondly remember the community challenges from BO3. Although they weren't that frequent, they were really cool. The ability to earn calling cards and camos for weapon kits was just awesome, and it brought about a great sense of community with the fellow players. After I feel like this wouldn't take too much effort on the part of the developers to come up with a couple rewards to do a community challenge about once a month or so, I think this helps keep the community going, especially during downtime between DLCs. Launch maps. There is something crucial to a successful COD Zombies launch, and that is having more than one experience available from the start of the game. BO1 had Kino and 5, BO2 had Transit and the subsections of the map as survival outings, BO3 had Shadows of Evil as well as the Giant. Now BO4 took it too far by having 4 maps be available from day 1. This is just too much content to be dropped all at once. How I would structure a zombie launch would be having 2 maps available day 1, one being a bolder big outing, and the other being a safer, more short game oriented map. If Treyarch wanted to try doing more maps than 2, then they needed to be released in the following weeks after the typical COD release window. This would better support the game during its historically weak holiday season, as well as help break up the content in general. Personally, I feel that the 2 map day 1 model is the best moving forward. But if there are going to be more than 2, I think Treyarch could really help the community out if they made some challenge maps in the style of some popular custom maps, such as tower maps. Content creator settings. This is a relatively niche complaint, but it is frustrating for some maps to have super cool intros that unfortunately feature copywritten music, such as Origins and Gorod Krovi. These are fantastic maps, I just wish that you could disable copywritten music, preferably with the ability for it to be replaced with uncopywritten music when the setting is enabled. Instead of featuring awkward silence, it would feature a new track entirely. This was a change that came to mind when I was playing the game Hi-Fi Rush on stream. For those unaware, this is a game that is a rhythm-based combat game that, on an unrelated note, I highly recommend. I cannot stress that enough. But presents you with the option at the start of the game to make it playable for content creators without fear of copyright claims or strikes. To me, this is a relatively simple fix and could really help a lot of content creators. Custom zombies. This is an absolute necessity for not just the next Call of Duty, but for all to come after as well. Bringing this to console is also a must. There's no solid argument to justify why console can't have it. And for that, I present 2 features. Future 1, release the zombie map tools just as they did for BO3 and create a web-based system for bookmarking maps to sync to your system, similar to the Rockstar Social Club for GTA 5, which for those unfamiliar allows you to save community maps to be able to access on your account later. Now this would be a fine system, but I think it pales in comparison to the alternative, Future 2. Let me take you away from Call of Duty for a second, over to the Halo franchise. I know this sounds strange, but bear with me here. For those who haven't touched this franchise, let me explain Forge Mode to you. Introduced in Halo 3, the devs put bonus content creation onto the players, giving them the freedom to create maps and truly make the game their own. And why am I bringing this up, you ask? Actually, you probably already got it, but Forge Mode proves the point that we can have native map building on console. Even if it is a limited map builder, this can help the community out astronomically. Custom zombies at this point are just as big for the community, if not bigger than the official Treyarch maps. Permutations. You'll have to hear me out on this one. I'm not saying that the permutations from BO4 need to come back, but in a way, sort of. An evolution of this system would be great to see, in my opinion, such as after beating a map's Easter egg in the standard mode, you could then play through the Easter egg, but with wacky rules set in place to make this customizable play mode a little bit more difficult or interesting. I think this opens up a lot of replayability for the Easter eggs themselves and gives more content to be fed out through YouTubers. Side modes. This is a big make or break for zombies in my opinion, where BO4 tried to bring out some new modes, they just didn't really work for me and for most of the community it would seem. Gauntlets are a cool novelty of varying levels of success. But even at their best, I feel no real incentive to play it once I've completed the gold medal for it. And Rush, I may have played twice and haven't thought about until writing these words just now. Which leads me into my next thought. Subpoint, Outbreak. Cold War brought us Outbreak, which tried to bring the long-discussed open-world COD Zombies experience to life with mixed results. I think Outbreak should come back with some improvements and overall changes, such as changing it to when you load into an Outbreak map, that is your map for this session. You will run around this one space completing objectives rather than doing a single objective then warping to another location, which unfortunately just breaks up the flow of the map too much and just doesn't really add to the experience for me. I'd rather see less maps and have them be much bigger than try to warp between several medium to large maps. Now personally, I would rather potentially merge this mode with the Grief mode we saw in Black Ops 2. Say, make Outbreak a 4v4 race to complete objectives faster or score more points than the opposition would make a lot of sense in my opinion. Personally, I think this would work a lot better than the true PvPvE model that a bunch of people in the community have suggested. It allows for Grief to also have a spiritual successor. As with the evolution of zombies being several years beyond Grief, I feel modern traditional maps might not be equipped to handle it. Outbreak improvements do need to happen overall to better help this mode land and stay replayable. Obviously, the community did enjoy it a good amount as it was shown to be popular by player stats revealed by Treyarch. I just think that there's a few misses here. It should be made clear that I think this big map style of zombies should remain a side offering, not the main dish. Here are some changes I would make if we were going to keep Outbreak relatively the same as it is now. Zombie pathing or aggression. For these being classified as Outbreak zones, it feels rather tame compared to the round-based zones in terms of zombies. As Requiem operatives are set into these regions to complete objectives, they will find plenty of dead space in play, as players will constantly come across areas where they could AFK and a single zombie will never come in to attack them. And to me that shouldn't be the case. Zombies should know where the operatives are and move to strike. Greatly increasing the pacing of matches would help me feel more invested in a given game. Better side objectives. Outbreak has the opportunity to do a lot of different things here, not just defend, hold out, escort, whatnot. To me, I think we just need a lot more variety here to keep it going. My next entry for side modes that I think would be fun additions come from the community's past. The community is no stranger to creating new content from old while in wait for the next installment, or just because they want to play and experience another way. From this spawned countless community challenges that not only challenge the player in difficulty, but also their perspectives of how Match of Zombies has to be played. I think a challenge mode that players could access that would feature a variety of player-created challenges alongside a few of Treyarch's design would be really cool. Simple things such as the Rainbow Perk, the Spawn Room Only, and 2-box hit challenges, and many more, could be featured. Like yes, players are capable of loading up any map today and doing these challenges on their own, but making it a proper mode that is coded to verify a player achieved a completion or managed to hit a certain round, depending on what the challenge being attempted is, and rewarding players for completing these with special calling cards or something of that nature would be a great bonus. Gun game. This connects to what I was just talking about before, albeit this comes from the mods more than challenges, but I think a gun game mechanic for zombies would be incredibly fun. Not to mention that it should be relatively easy to code given that gun game is a multiplayer staple. And it could either be tied to kills or round changes, and if it's tied to kills then you could have a fun competition between friends trying to complete the weapon ladder first. Perk system. This is a very delicate balance. As we saw in Black Ops 4, you can run something as core to the identity of the mode as the perk system. And this one, I'm not 100% where I stand on the matter. Something like Cold War, where you can purchase every single perk with no limit, feels a bit excessive. Like, I'm no stranger to the idea that Zombies is about starting weak and gaining strength as the match goes on, but I can see the argument that this hurts the mode rather than helps it. Maybe the sweet spot for perk balancing is somewhere in between the Cold War system and the Black Ops 2 map Origins, where in Origins you can get all the perks, but is an incredibly tedious process. I don't think we need to go that far, but I think we need to go a little bit more than just going up to the Wonder Fizz and clicking all the buttons really fast, and then boom, you have all of the perks in Cold War, which were insanely strong by the end of the game. Weapon kits. BO3 had a genuinely great weapon upgrade system. Use a gun, level it up, put some attachments on it, you're set. Once you encounter that weapon in-game, it would be exactly how you designed it. Compared to Cold War, which made it effectively random attachments unless you had a blueprint you could apply, this newer system was just more clunky than it needed to be. Bringing back the BO3 system or evolving it a bit from that would be a welcome addition. Starting weapon. I personally dislike the Cold War system mechanic of picking a loadout prior to heading into the map. To me, it violates a core gameplay loop that makes the mode fun. You are supposed to start with a weak weapon, such as the classic 1911, then grow in power as the rounds progress while zombies follow suit. I am aware that in Cold War, it was the lowest weapon rarity you load in with. Personally, I just hope this doesn't come back in the next outing. I think this would help us get more on track with some fundamentals of zombies moving forward. Point system. Cold War sought to rethink the point system by removing points for hits against zombies, instead opting to make it only reward points for zombie kills. This was designed to make weapons across all classes feel more closely balanced. The argument being that getting a weapon with lower damage shots and or high fire rate was too much of an advantage for a game session. Don't get me wrong, point weapons are strong, but also if you pulled a high damage weapon on your first box hit, that's also strong in the long run, more than likely securing you in the mid to late game. I am aware that points are the access to perks, but if you have a weapon that could probably fairly easily wipe a boss in the first few encounters, you will be fine. My point with all this being that the old system was better. Knowing how many times you could hit them in order to maximize points, aiming for the legs before following it up with a knife. This allowed for players to optimize their point earnings with various strategies. And they did this on top of raising prices in the mode, which brings us to our next point. Weapon upgrades. Following the backlash from BO4's multiple re-pack-a-punch requirement, Cold War brought it back. And they wind up making it so many points to fully pack-a-punch a weapon, 3 tiers of increasing prices, from 5 to 15 to 30k. Again, may I reiterate, they also jacked up the aforementioned point system, so this feels even worse. I don't get why we need to have this system, especially when this game also introduced weapon rarity to the mode. You add so many extra levels of upgrades for weapons either requiring points or salvage, to the point where it feels like you basically upgrade 2 weapons a game. The one you brought in and one you find. Which more than likely will end up being the map's wonder weapon, where all you will have to do is pack-a-punch it, but still, it limits your ability to pick up new weapons as a match progresses. I think weapon rarity should go. I would be willing to accept the multiple pack-a-punches if I didn't also have to rank up my weapon through salvage or by waiting till a certain round for the box to spit out a legendary variant of the gun I want. Characters over specialists. Part of my issue with modern zombies is I have no characters to be invested in. Like, as I'm playing these maps, I don't remember any interactions from the actual characters being memorable. And the lack of playing as the characters we should be invested in really hurts the experience. I would gladly take the transit crew over these generic specialists that have 3 or so generic lines that often not line up with anything that's happening around you. We need an actual crew. Playing as actual characters in the storyline allows for us to have something to kind of latch onto and identify with, instead of unnamed soldier 35. I get that on the multiplayer and Warzone front, operators are their way of doing customization and, more importantly for them, monetization. But I am willing to wager that most people who are mainly or exclusively zombies players did not buy hardly anything to get additional characters that all behave relatively the exact same. Generic lines and personality. The simple fact is, characters make a story. And you can't try to tell one if throughout all of these major events we are nobodies. Storyline. Storyline pacing is a very key element in the overall reception of the story you are trying to tell. Go too quick, feels rushed and lacks investment. Go too slowly, and it makes you wonder if you should even stick around. For example, I believe that the Chaos storyline could have worked in BO4 if it wasn't for the pacing of its own narrative and the jumbled release order of maps trying to simultaneously balance 2 storylines. On the pacing side of things, if the launch maps for Chaos would have been Dead of the Night and 9, then for the next DLC had been Ancient Evil, Chaos would still be going on in my opinion. My point with all this being related to the current Dark Ether storyline. In all the events of Cold War, did anything really happen? Well, in most maps, it's just our operators reacting to other things that are happening in the world. D Machina is responding to the Dark Ether portals breaching following the reactor. Firebase Z is retrieving Maxis from the Dark Ether she was thrown into by Omega. Maurer Toten is us responding to Krivchenko taking Raptor 1 and defeating Valentina, who we had seen for a collective 2 minutes before this. And then Forsaken. Well, we seemingly defeat the Forsaken. But that's just it. We aren't driving any story. We aren't making the decisions to make us feel interested at large. BO1, you had the crew being led around by Richtof and collecting artifacts up until winding up realizing that you just helped him switch bodies with Samantha and gain control of the zombies. It just feels like this story design is keeping us in the back seat while events play out around us, and I don't think it can be sustained this way. Quick restarting maps. In BO1, if you would fail on a map, it would immediately then reload the experience. This is a small change, but I feel like it could really improve an aspect of the zombies experience. I think this would be great to see a return with a twist. I think it would be nice to have the map restart vote appear as soon as the scoreboard does, where if a majority of players voted to reload the map, they would begin it back on round 1, speeding up reload times and allowing you to get back into the action quicker. On PC, they already have access to a quick restart console command, and I think it should be made a feature not restricted to a command. Map design. Like I said in the intro, we've been without some genuinely great design maps for a long time. While sure, I enjoy Die Maschine, the last real maps were in Black Ops 4, and that was years ago. Treyarch either needs to look at what players tend to like about the crowd favorite maps and evolve those general ideas into new maps, or just genuinely click some phenomenal new ideas into creating some great experiences. Because for each new map we can add to the list, it is another way we get to play zombies through a slightly different lens. And that is truly invaluable, as it keeps the mode fresh and allows for new maps to be added to a given player's favorite map list, which changes how many times they can experience zombies in a different way. Super Easter egg. This is a big thing for me, as I enjoy both Easter eggs and high round play. I feel that incentivizing players to complete all of the Easter egg is a huge bonus for a game. It rewards the players who are wanting to explore the given story already, and with the right reward, makes gameplay-only players feel tempted to give it a go. It needs to be something substantial. IW did this perfectly with Director's Cut, allowing a player to spawn in with permanent perks, 25,000 points, wonder weapons in the box, and lastly, every box weapon is also pack-a-punched. Unlike BO3's lackluster super reward of a pack-a-punch box on Revelations only. Oh, and how can I forget, you also get a free RK5 at the start of every game, meaning you save yourself a whopping 500 points. To me, there needs to be a sizable reward. Cold War had an interesting take on the scaling reward as you completed more Easter eggs, and I'd like to see that moving forward too. This needs to incentivize for not only gameplay aspects, but also to further story. What I'm getting at here is there needs to be an incentive for gameplay-only players and Easter egg-only players to where they both feel rewarded for doing all these Easter eggs. Ammo crates. I appreciate what they were trying to do here, but it just feels unnecessary to have these scattered around the map when zombie kills already have a chance to drop ammo in the current rendition of zombies. On top of any random max ammo or one from a dog round, I feel these are a bit too on the nose, hand-holdy, and would benefit to be removed. Gobblegum. At their debut, Gobblegums were quick to be criticized by the community at large. But I feel like as the season went on, they rose in popularity and went from not only being accepted to being greatly appreciated in their inclusion. Infinite Warfare took this idea and spun it into the Fate and Fortune card system, which instead of making you go to a machine to purchase a spin to take a chance to get the gum you want in that moment, would make the player have to earn points. Once the points reached the full meter, players could then choose any of their current cards. And the truth is, I like both of these systems. Gobblegums are simple and iconic as is, while I feel Fate and Fortune cards are a more balanced system, but at the end of the day, something of this nature needs to make its way back into the game. I'll admit this is one aspect of gameplay that I greatly missed throughout Cold War's life cycle, and I hope we can see it make a return. HUD. Personally, I'd say a HUD is about as important as the gameplay behind it. And one thing I think Cold War got wrong is this. This HUD is full of so much unnecessary information. Like, why do you need both a compass and a map? I get the idea of trying to make it easier to find the last zombies, but at this point, why not just outline the last handful of zombies per round through walls? It achieves the same effect because at the end of the day, not a soul is making callouts using the compass such as boss zombie at 237. To me, Black Ops 3 had the perfect HUD, and some variation of this would be perfect for zombies moving forward. Also in this segment, let me just say, I really don't care for all the pop-ups that happen while you're playing zombies now. Pop-ups for doing things in multiplayer makes sense, but for zombies, I don't feel I need a constant stimulation of a massive pop-up telling me I just dropped 5 zombies quickly. And this goes for the point pop-ups too. I'd much rather my points tick up in the corner of my screen like they always have instead of constantly being told that I just got points for eliminating a zombie, like it's a unique occurrence. Studio communication. I know this is a bit of a black sheep in terms of the rest of this list as it doesn't tie directly into gameplay, but I feel it is worth mentioning. I feel like Treyarch sort of lost their open communication methods when it came to Cold War Zombies, steering away from community update videos towards dropping map cinematic trailers and tweeting content roadmaps, which frequently featured vague information or certain posts completely neglecting zombies in its entirety. Also on this, they would constantly release a season roadmap to then later release the season roadmap reloaded, which would feature the rest of the content they planned on adding, and to me this is just confusing for players, as at this point when this goes on we have no idea when we're getting content or not. At the end of the day, all I'm trying to say is that I want zombies back. I want to be excited for the next map to come out. I want the community to be in full swing with content creators having tons of material to work with, but I just think this conversation should happen sooner rather than later. I know to make all players happy is an impossible task for the developer, but it feels like there is a good segment of the community that is being sidelined for the time being, put on ice until they're needed next. Cold War was a huge improvement in terms of the gameplay department over Black Ops 4, so things were looking up. But Vanguard has me doubting it, and with MW3 being a questionable future, I'm just a little concerned. I just wanted to voice some thoughts to get the community talking and more importantly thinking about what would make the mode improve for them. And I hope my points here lined up with some of your thoughts as well, or at least generated some new ideas, and I'd love to hear them. Let me know down below what is something you'd want to see for the future of COD Zombies. If you enjoyed this video, hit like. If you want to stay in the loop about future videos, be sure to hit subscribe. I also do some streaming over on Twitch. If you want to see that and interact with me in real time, check me out on Twitch at The Real Fighting Line 1. The link is on my channel page. And with that out of the way, I hope I see you in the next one.